Welcome back to the show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you back. Now, if you just left us last week, we enjoyed an action-packed of an interview. We had to cook, I had to do some simple workouts, and also I had to introduce a very special gentleman who is still here with me. Remember, we're at BMK Cafe having an incredible time. So after having a shining career as a pilot and as a pioneer of Sorority Flying School, this gentleman ventured into politics to become an MP. You can call them legislatures if you would, for Kampala. And he did an incredible job at that, because most of the people that have encountered him have always called him a leader of the people. So, and now he sits back and owns a very nice radio station called Metro FM that transmits good programming and has one of my favorite characters and a friend of mine, Sengase Banga, working on it. I'm going to be very, very delighted to have a conversation. This time we're going to be much more serious, focused on real issues. So I'm going to be asking him questions like to do with youth unemployment, to do with marginalization between the elderly and the young. I also want to find out more about his career, of becoming a pilot, because I'm more fascinated there. I want to find out about his life traveling all these countries and becoming a pilot. So join me once again, in welcoming the incredible Captain Babu Edward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very... it's like I've just seen you. It's like we're not even here last week. I've just introduced you to the show because you have this quite impressive mind, when you come to speak. And I will say this a lot because a lot of people around our age have not been so appreciative of having such gentlemen on their show, because a person of your age, you put in too much. There's an influx of knowledge that is inserted, towards youth and the way how they carry life. Because it's like you had a full career. It's like you had a full life even before I was born. And it will make so injustice if I don't get to learn so much about your life. So tell me about your life. Well, becoming a pilot. How did you choose that? How did you choose that choice?
During the times when we were in school, we had what they called career books. They used to bring to school, and people would come and talk about career development and so on and so forth. And we all looked at the different careers that were taking place in the world. I was very interested in engineering, so my first cue was to look at aeronautics as something I would like to do. And
we never had any aircraft schools.
No, we didn't at that time. So when they brought the book, the only airline that was in East Africa was East African Airways, which was based in Nairobi. They advertised, and first of all, I did interviews to go to the United States with the United States Information Service. We were passed, but then somehow our government reviewed it and they took certain people. And then I went and did the interview with East African Airways, and they took us as engineering trainees. Took us to Nairobi, and we joined the Kenya Polytechnic with East African Airways. There was a course going, and at the end of that course, they selected some of us to become what they called flight engineers. Those days, an aeroplane would have 2 pilots and an engineer on board. In doing so, some of us excelled, and a few of us were selected to go and do piloting.
And you're one of them?
I was one of them. And from Uganda we were 5, Tanzania 5, no 8.
How old were you then?
Oh, I must have been 1970. I might have been about 20, 21, something like that.
Because now that's the prime age.
Yeah. And they took us to Oxford Air Training School in Britain after doing engineering in Nairobi. After that, it was intensive. You don't get holidays in flying. You do it intensively, and the number of hours, about 4 years of university training. We finished that one, came back to East African Airways, and that is they took us to the lowest aeroplane. We were called cadet pilots. And we started by being trained on the small aeroplanes, which were flying in East Africa. And we did the whole of Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, Tanga, Mafia. We would go to places like Mtwara, Dodoma, Arusha, Mwanza, Musoma, Entebbe. Entebbe. Entebbe, we would go to Kasese, we would go to Pakuba, we would come back to Entebbe. Then we would do what they call Lake Circuit, which was Bukoba, Mwanza, Musoma, and back to Entebbe. And then Kenya, we would fly Kisumu.
So with this time you will be flying with what? Private passengers?
No, it is an airline. So people were buying tickets, and the tourism.
Okay.
We would carry tourists from Nairobi to different parks. We would take them to different places. So we flew the whole of East Africa. And after some time, you would need to be promoted to another small aeroplane called the Fokker Friendship as a co-pilot. You're not a captain then. And then you would fly on that one. That one would fly domestically around East Africa. And then we would go to the jet. The next jet I went to was a DC-9, a Douglas, which East African Airways had bought. And that one did Entebbe, Nairobi, Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, and then the whole of Africa. Kigali, would go up to Kinshasa, Lusaka.
Your very first time, can you describe that experience you passed through, the very first time you flew an aircraft?
Excitement. It's an excitement. When you are young, flying becomes addictive. There's nothing as good.
Isn't it nostalgic at all?
It is. It's very now it is nostalgic, but then it was. It's like taking something that makes you high. It makes you happy.
Yeah.
And when they took us, when they recruited us, they took us to Wilson Airport in Kenya, and you first did what they call solo landing. You did a small aeroplane for about 20 hours, and then the last hour, if you went solo a bit earlier, you were ready to go to Europe. So I went solo in 17 hours. Others went solo in 20 hours. Others took 22 hours. Wow. So I was the first one to go solo.
Okay.
That meant that now you are ready to go to Britain and start flying. So we were taken, went to London, the British government, the Uganda High Commission, and they then took us from there. They took us to Oxford Air Training School, and they took us to one of their bases, which was in Carlisle, near Scotland, and we started flying. And that is how we eventually finished 2 years later and came back to East African Airways.
So that's the story that saw you become a great captain.
A pilot, eventually. Yeah, eventually a captain, yes.
First a pilot, and then you elevated to a captain.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. So, when you have not been flying, have you had any chance of doing traveling?
Oh, yes. No, I have traveled a lot. I have been to South America. When I left East African Airways, I actually, when East African community went, when they unbundled it, I worked for Nigeria Airways. In Nigeria Airways, I was trained in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. I've been trained in Seattle. I was trained in Eastern Airlines when I was in East African Airways. I was trained in American Airlines. I was trained in Lufthansa. I've been trained in different airlines around the world. So I've been to different places. I have flown all the way as far as Japan. I've flown all the way as far as Los Angeles. I've flown into New York. So I've been to different places around the world. It's like
you've been in every corner of the world.
Virtually, yes.
People who have traveled a lot always tend out to describe the world in a different way. They see the world in a different perspective.
This is the big picture, yes.
Yes, but compared to when you come back home, do you think Uganda as a country, do you think it's trying to cope up with the standards of the world? Do you think we are reaching there in terms of a lot of aspects like infrastructure, in terms of culture, food?
Uganda is one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
Say that again?
Uganda is one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
I wanted you to say that for the record, because a lot of people don't even appreciate that.
It is so beautiful that every time I'm driving on a Masaka Road or Jinja Road or going up north, I feel very depressed that we cannot afford to develop this country to a certain level. It's not our fault. It's to do with our history. It's to do with our being exploited. It's a lot of things. A lot of our people don't look beyond their nose, and they don't understand what is going on. The atmosphere we've had has never been good enough for us to go faster. But with the young people coming up, with some of us behind them, I think we can make this country a better place to live in.
When your pilot, was there like a near-death experience for you? Because hey, every pilot confesses that at some time.
No. we were so well trained that we could control that aeroplane. I've never had a technical problem that got me to that level. What I've had emergencies, but I've eventually landed because I was in control. I think what causes problems is that most of the accidents you've had are made by pilots, a pilot's error. Luckily, I've not been that far, but I've brought in aeroplanes which had a lot of problems, and we managed to land.
We are going to take a little break, and then when we return, I'm going to ask our special guest about the media industry generally. So if you have your questions roaming out there, just stay tuned and stay on the program, because all these questions are coming up, and I believe it's going to give me all the comfortable answers that you need to know about journalism. So we take a little break and we return with Stealing. All right, now even when he's off camera, you can have this sense that this man is very, very learned and so intelligent. You know, I feel like a sponge. I'm absorbing each and every word that is coming out of this gentleman's mouth. Now, as promised before, we're going to talk about the state of journalism. Now, there is a lot of, can I call it, industrial complex garbage that is roaming around our media. What is the take on? What's your take on that? Do you think, because the most important stories are not told, the most valuable information is not transmitted outside there? I won't mention any media fraternity, but I'm saying what can be done better to make sure that we have content that comes out that can be really educative, inspiring, and at the same time very important.
Well, first and foremost, media is a very big industry. It's an industry. It's not something very simple. Now, in media you have journalism. Journalism is a very important discipline taught in some of the best universities in the world, and people are very well trained. They are trained up to a certain level. They are supposed to have a certain discipline. In this country, we also have the media associations and media unions which have got codes, conduct, your conducts and so on and so forth. Now, first of all, you respect everybody who is in the media. My take is that most of our media personalities, some of them are not well trained. There's training in a university and getting a degree, a diploma, and so on. Then there is retraining on the job, whereby each one has got a culture. UBC has got their culture. NTV's got their culture. Radios have got their culture. Now, that kind of in-house training. Now, all these are not very effective. And then there is a recurrent training, whereby every 2 years there should be people to train and tell them what is new in the industry. Now, the media industry is a very important industry in the world, and that's why the Minister of Information is with national guidance. The media is supposed to give us a national guidance. We are supposed to go through the media to tell people exactly how to take this country forward and how to help our people and tell them the truth. What unfortunately has been happening, a lot of media has gone on fake, hoax, disinformation, misinformation. They have not become very serious on how to get our people to understand their country. And a lot of it has become emotional, where people are given false information and they emotionally start doing all sorts of things. They say all sorts of things and they actually spoil. But the people who are doing that are very few compared to the whole country. We are 40 million. The people who are making this noise are not even 1 million. And they are spoiling the whole industry. Now, this is a very important industry. It can employ engineers, it can employ journalists, it can employ entertainers, it can employ performing artists, it can employ managers, and it can employ technicians. There are people who have got different talents, and this is a very big industry. People have not understood it. They think it's a joke.
The industry has been now affected by desire for advertisement, or you can call it revenue. And this has actually influenced the way how the medias do programming. And you see some TVs even doing sensationalized stories that you say sometimes pop out as to be so emotional. So would you really crucify the media?
No. You don't crucify the media. You talk about competition. You're actually talking about competition. Whenever you have an industry, there's bound to be competition. And an industry must also be governed by competition laws. the government of Uganda is supposed to come out with what they call antitrust or competition laws, so that when more than one televisions are competing, there are certain limits in which you do your things. Now, the competition law in this country is not yet on the move. They have done it, I'm told, they have studied it, it is with the Attorney General, but we need to look at competition. What competition does is this: in a good entrepreneurship, the competition is there, and people, what happens, one radio will do very well, or television, and they'll begin to merge. It's called a shakeout. Now, this is already happening. You find radios like Vision and televisions are getting more and more people joining them. You are getting Monitor Radio and so on, also joining, and their television. So even now you see, NTV used to be one television, they are now two. NBS is doing the same. Now this is what they call merging. Now that is competition. Now those ones who are breaking the rules by doing what you've just said, they do all sorts of sensationalization. Those are wrong. That's because our law is not very well enforced. But the Uganda Communications Commission can actually come out with a competition law where certain things have got limits. You don't go beyond that. For example, you don't have naked people. You don't have pornographic movies and things like that. Now, these are things that can be done in an industry. So an industry is big, but what we are talking about is a very small, minute thing. One or two televisions did something like that. The real thing is that people should sit down, come out with all these laws that governs the system. It's the system, we are not fast enough. In this country, we have a problem with government. Development is faster than implementation.
UCC has some laws.
No, they are not. No. You're talking about the Act. The Act is very small. You're supposed to have rules and regulations which are permanently being changed.
Should they revise?
They are supposed to revise all the time. You see, this is a new art. It's not something that has been there. We are learning. There are so many things we are learning because of opening up the industry, liberalizing the industry. You have so many radio stations, so many televisions. Now, this was good because it allowed the industry to see how far it could go, the elasticity of the industry, how much it could absorb. The point is, most of these are going to come reducing and becoming one because the competition is high.
How comes the Kenyan industry, broadcast and the media industry is so much booming than ours?
Yeah, because
what do they do differently?
No. It's because the people there are a little bit more serious, and the government was interested in the industry, so they put in a little bit more. What we have done here, we become a little bit difficult with the industry. Instead of encouraging the industry and coming out with those limits I told you about, that's the only thing. All you need is to go back, look at the big picture, and bring everybody on board. It can be done. We've got the ability to do it too.
As the proprietor of one of the radio stations, Metro FM, what's your last take, or what's your last input when it comes to media?
First of all, the whole law has to be looked at, and we've got to look at the limits of the rules and regulations, and we've got to look at the management of the industry. Is it being done very well? Did we open up too much? Did we, because we might have opened up too much. Now we have to sort of come and shrink and downsize, if you like the word. Downsize the whole industry so that we can maintain it. Tone it down a little bit. But it will come because competition is so high that the radio stations and televisions to survive, they will have to merge.
There is this question that is so booming in my ears, and I've not actually gotten the best answer yet, about youth unemployment. Youths feel nowadays they are so marginalized. They feel like they are not belonging to a certain pack, or they feel like they're oppressed in terms of creating, coming up with incubations of getting jobs and creating jobs, and maybe perhaps getting support offered from the government. Maybe they're not coming out from the proper channels, or some sort of that situation going on. So I've asked a lot of people, but I need you to give me the best answer, especially to a young man that has spared that time to tune into this program.
No. The young men are actually right, because definitely the jobs are less than the population, especially our educated population. But let's go back and examine why we have this situation. Why? One, our population is growing at about 3.65 per year. The population of Uganda is growing. The youth population, which is the United Nations, UNICEF, is between 15 and 24 years of age. That's what they call the youth. Our definition of Uganda is between 15 and 30. I'm telling you. No, 30. Ours is 30. Now, the 35 is some people want to make it 35. It's 30. Yeah. I'm giving you technical information.
I understand.
Yeah, but the United Nations is
from
15 to 24. 24.
Yes.
And but these are semantics. To me, anybody below 30 is still young. All right? Between 30 and 50 is middle age. Between 50 and 70, you are getting on. Between 70 and you're an old man. So to me, that is something you can define depending on what you want. But anything below 12 years is a child. Anybody below 2 years is an infant in aviation. So to me, I've got different ways of looking at it. But let's go back. The population, then this country, liberalized the universities. You know how many universities we have now. So a lot of our young people, because the universities stopped being Makerere at one time, you go into Makerere without paying. Makerere first opened private sector, the privatization of education. People went into Makerere, they increased in number. Now private universities came up, some by religious institutions, some are by private people. Now, these are producing and they are sending people out there. The syllabus of our education is also designed for people who are looking for employment. They are not training our people to start employment.
Wow. The whole system, the educational system.
We are coming. So
I see where you're heading.
Yeah, and our politicians are taking advantage of this weakness, and they're saying government does not create jobs. Government can only put an environment, a conducive environment for people to put up businesses. Government, we don't want them to be into business. Are you with me? Government employees are very few. So the government cannot take everybody who comes out of these universities. So what do? We must train our people to start thinking of making their own business, working and saving to start a business. We have a very big industry which nobody wants to talk about. It's called agriculture. Nobody wants to talk about it because everybody wants to be in a suit and go and work for URA. Most of your age group prefer to work for URA and UNRWA and things like that.
You are a farmer. I failed to mention that earlier.
Yes, I am.
You are a farmer. Yeah. You're practicing farmer. Yeah.
So you see, when people talk, what sort of employments do we have in our country? How do we educate our children? I was told a young man in Makerere University started a small joint to sell Rolex. It became bigger. He opened another one in Chambogo. Now this was a university student.
With degrees and all that.
Yeah. Then there are boys who have got degrees who have decided to go into agriculture. They are doing extremely well.
Are you saying that white collar jobs are no longer?
No, the white collar, no, they are there. You can compete for them, but the competition is high. And for you to work for government, you must have an upper second from Makerere University. Anybody with a lower degree below upper second does not go for that interview. Okay. And you and your friends, the younger people, I want to beg you, let us look at the process, let us find solutions to our problem, and let us stop crying. Let us stop this thing, government to Koredechi. Let us now talk about what do we do for our government.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, speaking about reciprocation. Wise words coming from a very wise gentleman. This has been Captain Babu Edward. I have a present for him and I'm going to bring it on. Food wasn't the only thing that we served him. So, you know, they say that you only have to listen to elders if you really want to learn something about. Respect your predecessors because, hey, they existed. They lived that life before you did. So, I'm going to have learned so much from Captain, and I hope you also pick along whatever he has said. Need I say more about this interview? We are going to come next week with another incredible personality. This has been Chilling. Follow us on social media. Go on our Facebook page. Go on our YouTube. That's Chilling UBC TV. Subscribe. We need more subscribers. Also go on our Twitter page and like us on Facebook. I would love to thank a couple people. Of course, I would love to thank BMK Cafe for this incredible location. Also thank Kwanzi Classic for this incredible outfit. I look like a 5 million box. I would also like to thank my team. That's Isaac. I would love to thank Tony. I would love to thank Madame Sophie, the head of production. I would also love to thank our managing director, the entire UBC fraternity, and also Cedric. One from you, brother, because your dad, your dad is supposed to be reckoned with. He's quite a smart gentleman. So see you next week, and thank you very much for tuning into the program. Until we meet again, this has been Chilling. Thank you very much. But before, let me get the present. Isaac is going to get the present. So in a way of finding a way of supporting our African craft, I went somewhere there in downtown and I brought our guest a very incredible souvenir, and it's written on Edward, that means happiness.
Yes.
But even behind it, it has another special message that says he's known for his intelligence. You see? He's known for his intelligence and wits. What are wits?
Wits is able to do things quickly. When you think, you're witty. When people say something and you quickly solve it, it's witness.
From me and the team, please.
Thank you very much. That's very nice. I have a lot of respect for UBC, and I want you to help me when you go back. Tell your people to try and rejuvenate U24.
Yes.
I want to see it abroad.
Our sister TV.
Yes, when I travel to Europe, when I travel to Tanzania, I would like to see UBC. And to improve, to be able to listen to news, to be able to listen to your talk shows, to make it sound international, so that we stop being just a Ugandan thing. The U24 is a very, very important program. For example, when people are talking about Uganda, that UB24 would have given the true picture of what was happening in Uganda, and not somebody on Al Jazeera who's been given fake news.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we have those international medias coming in, parachuting in and telling our story.
UB24 is very important for us. We would like to see it on.
Okay. See you, ladies and gentlemen, next week with another incredible episode. So this has been Chilling. Thank you very much and take care.